Welcome back. This is Exodus 16, bread from heaven. The whole congregation of the Israelites set out from Elim, and Israel came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after they had departed from the land of Egypt. So now they were in the wilderness of Sin. The wilderness of Sin. That's very interesting. This wilderness is called the wilderness of Sin. The whole congregation of the Israelites complained against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. The whole congregation. The Israelites said to them, "If only we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots and ate our fill of bread, for you have brought us out into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger." Wow. Then the Lord said to Moses, "I'm going to rain bread from heaven for you. Each day the people shall go out and gather enough for that day. In that way, I will test them whether they will follow my instruction or not." Oh, he will test them as to whether they will get just enough for the day. On the sixth day, when they prepare what they bring in, it will be twice as much as they gather on other days. So Moses and Aaron said to all the Israelites, "In the evening you shall know that it was the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt. And in the morning you shall see the glory of the Lord, because he has heard your complaining against the Lord. For what are we that you complain against us?" For what are we that you complain against us? Moses said, "When the Lord gives you meat to eat in the evening and your fill of bread in the morning, because the Lord has heard the complaining that you utter against him, what are we? Your complaining is not against us, but against the Lord." So your complaining is not against us. What are we? Like David would say, "I'm a flea. I'm a single flea. I'm a dead dog. Why would you even care about me?" You know, it's the Lord that has been doing this, that's been saying these things. Let me share this again with you. All right. "I'm going to rain bread from heaven for you, and each day the people shall go out and gather enough for that day. In that way, I will test them. Are they going to gather just enough? Whether they will follow my instruction or not. And how good do you follow the instructions?" Okay. On the sixth day, when they prepare what they bring in, it will be twice as much as they gather on other days. So Moses and Aaron said to all the Israelites, "In the evening you shall know that it was the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt. And in the morning you shall see the glory of the Lord, because he has heard your complaining against the Lord. For what are we that you complain against us?" said Moses. And Moses said, so first of all, if you're complaining, what good is it for you to complain against other people? Complain with the Lord. Who are those other people? They're nobody that can do anything for you. Complain with your Lord if you have the courage to complain. If you have the courage to complain to your Lord so that he can do something. But what are you doing on your end? That's what I would be more concerned about. But what are we that you complain against us? Say, okay, you're not complaining against us, but against the Lord. Then Moses said to Aaron, say to the whole congregation of the Israelites, draw near to the Lord, for he has heard your complaining. Draw near to the Lord. If you're complaining, draw near to the Lord. Draw near to the Lord. For the people who are complaining, right? For he has heard your complaining. Draw near to the Lord, for he has heard your complaining. As Aaron spoke to the whole congregation of the Israelites, they looked toward the wilderness, and the glory of the Lord appeared in the cloud. The Lord spoke to Moses and said, I have heard the complaining of the Israelites. Say to them, at twilight you shall eat meat, and in the morning you shall have your fill of bread. Then you shall know that I am the Lord your God. So this to me is an instruction about how to eat before fasting. So in the morning, that's when you eat bread, which makes total sense because even in my health and wellness journey, right? I'm counting macros. When do you eat carbs? You eat carbs in the morning. You eat your bread in the morning. That way it sustains you through the day. You can work because you have the energy to work. And then you eat your meat at night, which is also exactly what I do. I eat meat in the evening, you know? In the morning you shall have your fill of bread, then you shall know that I am the Lord your God. I think that's so great. That is awesome. I like how it lines up. It completely lines up with health and wellness. Exodus 16, 9 through 12. 9 through 12. So this is like bread. Eat your fill of bread in the morning. Eat your meat at twilight. And then know that the Lord, know that he is the Lord, your God. I love it. That's exciting, actually. That gives me a timeline for what to eat before I fast and what to eat to break my fast. So I'm breaking my fast with meat. Before my fast, I'm going to eat bread. And I'm going to make sure that it's unleavened. It's unleavened bread. In the evening, quails came up and covered the camp. And in the morning, there was a layer of dew around the camp. When the layer of dew lifted, there on the surface of the wilderness was a fine, flaky substance, as fine as frost on the ground. When the Israelites saw it, they said to one another, what is it? For they did not know what it was. Moses said to them, it is the bread that the Lord has given you to eat. Wow. I didn't see that coming. I knew about the manna, but I didn't know the intricacies, the details about the manna, right? When the layer of dew lifted, there on the surface of the wilderness was a fine, flaky substance, as fine as frost on the ground. When the Israelites saw it, they said to one another, what is it? So people would not have normally paid attention to that. What is it? they said to one another, for they did not know what it was. Moses said to them, it is the bread that the Lord has given you to eat. This is what the Lord has commanded. Gather as much of it as each of you needs, an omer to a person, according to the number of persons, all providing for those in their own tents. So an omer to a person according to the number of persons. And one omer is about 2 to 3 liters, 2.5 US dry quarts, or 10 dry cups. One omer is 9.3 US dry cups. Is one handful. This says, so this is so many different things. A omer is 2.3 liters, which is roughly 10 cups. An omer is 9.3 US cups, so about 10 cups. One omer per person. One omer is one US dry cup, or about 236.6 milliliters. One is one handful. So you're getting so many. Damaris was defined as being the quantity of water equal in weight to a light royal talent, and was thus equal to about, okay, the omer was equal to about 3.64 liters, or 0.96 US gallons. 3.64 liters. 3.64 liters. Oops. 3.64 liters. Measurement of the omer. A tenth of an ephah. 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 A sheaf of grain. Many cups in an omer. So I kind of 3.64 liters. 3.64 liters. 8 gallons. 8 gallons. I don't know. Every day, each person is getting 8 gallons worth. I don't think so. I don't know that that's for one healthy adult, right? Are you seeing this? Best guess recreation of the omer is 3 to 4 US cups, or about 1 US quart. Let me go to their page if it still exists. Determining the capacities of the hin, omer, and ephah. Showing 3.4 C in a quart jar for the omer, 10 of those in large bowl for ephah, and 1 pint for the hin of oil. Also showing the proportions of the recipe for the bread and drink offering in Exodus 29:40. And the resulting bread, 1 batch made. Showing another 3 to 4 cups of flour with oil poured over to show all the ways a grain offering could be brought except a roasted sheaf according to Leviticus. Isn't this cool? I think this is cool. The range for the omer is 3.2 cups or 2.8 cups, using the highest low value and the lowest high value. The average is 3.4 cups for the average mid-range. Using the biblical equivalent of 10 omer equal 1 ephah, then the range for the ephah is 2 US gallons, 1.75 US gallons, with the average of mid-range of 2.1 US gallons. This is really cool that they did this. Wow. So this, they went through and they saw the different, look at this. This is cool. Interesting. Wow, look at all the cool stuff I'm learning. I don't know if you're having this kind of fun, but I am having fun. I found what an omer is, as well as a ephah. I think that's how it's pronounced. The Israelites did so, right here, 17, did so, some gathering more, some less. So they did so, all gathering some more, some less. But when they measured it with an omer, those who gathered much had nothing over. The Israelites did so, some gathering more, some less. But when they measured it with an omer, those who gathered much had nothing over, and those who gathered little had no shortage. They gathered as much as either of them needed. So you really only need to get what you need, get what you and your family needs per day. Buy what you and your family needs per day. And Moses said to them, let no one leave any of it over until morning. Let no one leave any of it over until morning. So to make sure that none of it was found, you know, so you make sure you eat it all. But they did not listen to Moses. Some left part of it until morning, and it bred worms and became foul. And Moses was angry with them. They turned it unclean, right? They did not listen to Moses. Some left part of it until morning, and it bred worms and became foul. And Moses was angry with them. They were only able to eat what they had gathered. Morning by morning, they gathered it as much as each needed. But when the sun grew hot, it melted. On the 6th day, they gathered twice as much food, 2 omers apiece. When all the leaders of the congregation came and told Moses, he said to them, this is what the Lord has commanded. Tomorrow is a day of solemn rest, a holy Sabbath to the Lord. So you bake twice as much. You make twice as much so that you're not doing that work on the Sabbath. Make twice as much the day before. The Sabbath. so that you don't need to work and you can rest on the Sabbath. Oh, wow. Tomorrow is a day of solemn rest, a holy Sabbath to the Lord. Bake what you want to bake and boil what you want to boil, and all that is left over put aside to be kept until morning. So that day it wouldn't spoil. The day before the Sabbath, it didn't spoil, but all the other days you're not allowed to keep food overnight. So is having a refrigerator also a whoa, if I'm supposed to be eating according just to the day, or am I supposed to have a refrigerator? Am I relying on this refrigerator to keep my food instead of relying on the Lord? Our refrigerators, a sin against the Lord. I'm gonna put that here, question mark. Um, all providing for those in their own tents. All right. That's cool that nobody had in shortage, nobody had more than what they were supposed to have. But it showed if you were not honest too. Like no one leave any of it over until the morning. But they didn't listen to Moses, and some left it till the morning and it became foul. But the only day that they were able to do that, the sun grew hot, it melted. On the sixth day, they gathered twice as much food. Tomorrow is a day of solemn rest, so they put it aside till morning, as Moses commanded them, and it did not become foul, and there were no worms in it. Okay? Because of the Sabbath the next day. Moses said, "Eat it today, for today is a Sabbath to the Lord. Today you will not find it in the field. 6 days you shall gather it, but on the seventh day, which is a Sabbath, there will be none." 6 days you shall gather it, but on the seventh day, which is a Sabbath, there will be none. 6 days and you shall gather it, but on the seventh day, which is a Sabbath, there will be none. On the seventh day, some of the people went out to gather and they found none. The Lord, and they found none. The Lord said to Moses, "How long will you refuse to keep my commandments and instructions?" Wow. Some of the people went out to gather and they found none. The Lord said to Moses, "How long will you refuse to keep my commandments and instructions?" See, the Lord has given you the Sabbath. Therefore, on the sixth day, he gives you food for 2 days. Each of you stay where you are. Do not leave your place on the seventh day. So the people rested on the seventh day. Do not leave your place on the seventh day. Do not leave your place. Rest equals do not leave your place on the seventh day. You got double the portion the day before so that you wouldn't have to leave and go gather food. When are you going to keep my commandments? How long will you refuse to keep my commandments and instructions? The Lord asked. How long will you refuse to keep my commandments and instructions? Wow. And so As far as when the Sabbath is, I personally think the Sabbath is on Friday. Friday, let's see. This is what I it says the Sabbath, the Jewish Sabbath from Hebrew Shabbat to rest is observed throughout the year on the seventh day of the week. Saturday, according to biblical tradition, it commemorates the original seventh day on which God rested after completing the creation. I want to keep looking. It's the seventh, Saturday is the seventh day. If Sunday was not the first day that he started. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, wait, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So they're trying to say that the Sabbath is on a Saturday. But I don't know that that's correct. I don't know that that it's on a Saturday. I feel like it's on a Friday because Friday is the day that the Muslims use to celebrate Juma. The Friday is the Muslim Sabbath. So people may gather in a mosque for the noon prayer. This is called Juma. So I believe Friday was supposed to be the Sabbath, not Saturday, and definitely not Sunday. Sunday is not a day that people were supposed to do anything particular. But I believe Friday was the day that you're supposed to not work that day, but you're supposed to gather twice as much Thursday so that you don't work Friday. You know, I think that's how it was supposed to go. And I need clarification for that. But I personally, I'm going to choose Friday as the Sabbath because Friday is the day that's shared with Friday is the day that Christ was crucified, and it's also the day that the Muslims um observe Juma, their afternoon prayer, and they also rest on that day. So they say that the Sabbath happens each week from sunset on Friday to sunset on Saturday. During Shabbat, Jewish people remember the story of creation from the Torah, where God created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh day. Different Jewish people celebrate Shabbat in different ways. Shabbat. They begin it on Friday. They begin it on Friday. How much? Friday evening. Friday at sunset until Saturday. Okay. What do they do on Friday? Sacred day of worship in a chapter called Al Juma, meaning the day of congregation, which is also the word for Friday in Arabic. It states, "O you who believe, when you are called to congregational Friday prayer, hasten to the remembrance of God and leave off trade." So, okay, I'm good with that. On the seventh day, some of the people went out to gather and they found none. The Lord said to Moses, "How long will you refuse to keep my commandments and instructions?" So on Fridays, what was I writing on? Fridays, Shabbat, you got Juma, Good Friday. Oh, I believe everything is it lines up if it's of the Lord. Um there are consistencies if it's the Lord. If it's not the Lord, things are going to be inconsistent and all over the place. Confusion is caused by the enemy. It's not caused by the Lord, unless he wants you to be confused. If he wants you to be confused, you will be, you know, but the Lord does not provide confusion. Everything he says is clear. So Friday is the Sabbath, right? Not Saturday. Don't believe what's marketed to you, okay? Things that are being marketed to you are being marketed by the enemy. So don't believe those things. So see, the Lord has given you the Sabbath. Therefore, on the sixth day, he gives you food for 2 days. Each of you stay where you are. Do not leave your place on the seventh day. So the people rested on the seventh day. The house of Israel called it manna. So that's what they called it. It was like coriander seed, white, and the taste of it was like wafers made with honey. Moses said, wow, isn't that cool? Moses said, "This is what the Lord has commanded. Let an omer of it be kept throughout your generations. Let an omer of it be kept throughout your generations, in order that they may see the food with which I fed you in the wilderness when I brought you out of the land of Egypt." And Moses said to Aaron, "Take a jar and put an omer of manna in it and place it before the Lord to be kept throughout your generations. As the Lord commanded Moses, so Aaron placed it before the covenant for safekeeping. The Israelites ate manna 40 years until they came to a habitable land. They ate manna until they came to the border of the land of Canaan. An omer is a tenth of an ephah. Okay. Water from the rock. From the wilderness of Sin, the whole congregation of the Israelites journeyed by stages as the Lord commanded. They camped at Rephidim, but there was no water for the people to drink. The people quarreled with Moses and said, "Give us water to drink." Moses said to them, "Why do you quarrel with me? Why do you test the Lord?" But the people thirsted there for water, and the people complained against Moses and said, "Why did you bring us out of Egypt to kill us and our children and livestock with thirst?" Dang, there were some vicious people. So Moses cried out to the Lord, "What shall I do with this people? They are almost ready to stone me." The Lord said to Moses, "Go on ahead of the people and take some of the elders of Israel with you, taking in your hand the staff with which you struck the Nile, and go. I will be standing there in front of you on the rock at Horeb. Strike the rock, and water will come out of it, so that the people may drink." Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Israel. He called the place Massah and Meribah, because the Israelites quarreled and tested the Lord, saying, "Is the Lord among us or not?" They quarreled and tested the Lord, saying, "Is the Lord among us or not?" Amalek attacks Israel and is defeated. Then Amalek came and fought with Israel at Rephidim. Moses said to Joshua, "Choose some men for us to go out, fight. Choose some men for us and go out, fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on the top of the hill with the staff of God in my hand." So Joshua did as Moses told him and fought with Amalek, while Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. Whenever Moses held up his hand, Israel prevailed. And whenever he lowered his hand, Amalek prevailed. Whoa, that is crazy. But Moses' hands grew weary, so they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it. Aaron and Hur held up his hands, one on one side and the other on the other side, so his hands were steady until the sun set. Wow. And Joshua defeated Amalek and his people with the sword. Can you believe that? Then the Lord said to Moses, "Write this as a reminder in a book and recite it in the hearing of Joshua. I will utterly blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven." And Moses built an altar and called it, "The Lord is my banner." He said, "A hand upon the banner of the Lord. The Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. The Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation." Built an altar and called it, "The Lord is my banner." You see that, how they create stuff and they name it after the times. They name it after how they were feeling, the certainty of things. It's where they were with God that allows them to name things. Water from the rock. So this is 18. Exodus 18, Jethro's advice. Jethro, the priest of Midian, Moses' father-in-law, heard of all that God had done for Moses and for his people Israel, how the Lord had brought Israel out of Egypt. After Moses had sent away his wife Zipporah, his father-in-law Jethro took her back, along with her 2 sons. The name of the one was Gershom, for he said, "I have been an alien in a foreign land." And the name of the other, Eleazar, for he said, "The God of my father was my help and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh." The God of my father was my help and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. Jethro, Moses' father-in-law. Jethro, Moses' father-in-law. Came into the wilderness where Moses was encamped at the mountain of God, bringing Moses' son and wife to him. Aww. Aww. First of all, he took his wife and children, which is great. And then, he brought them back to him. Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, came into the wilderness where Moses was encamped at the mountain of God, bringing Moses' sons and wife to him. He sent word to Moses, "I, your father-in-law Jethro, am coming to you with your wife and her 2 sons." Moses went out to meet his father-in-law. He bowed down and kissed him. Each asked after the other's welfare, and they went into the tent. Then Moses told his father-in-law all that the Lord had done to Pharaoh and to the Egyptians for Israel's sake, all the hardship that had beset them on the way and how the Lord had delivered them. Jethro rejoiced for all the good that the Lord had done to Israel in delivering them from the Egyptians. Jethro said, Jethro said, "Blessed be the Lord who has delivered you from the Egyptians and from Pharaoh. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all gods because he delivered the people from the Egyptians when they dealt arrogantly with them." They dealt arrogantly with the Egyptians. And so they lost everything. They dealt arrogantly and lost everything. Those who deal arrogantly lose everything they have. Interesting. And Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought a burnt offering and sacrifices to God, and Aaron came with all the elders of Israel to eat bread with Moses' father-in-law in the presence of God. The next day, Moses sat as judge for the people, while the people stood around him from morning until evening. So he was a judge also. He judged the people, which means when they had personal affairs, they would come to Moses and Moses would tell them what to do. He would exercise judgment for them. When Moses' father-in-law saw all that he was doing for the people, he said, "What is this that you are doing for the people? Why do you sit alone while all the people stand around you from morning until evening?" Moses said to his father-in-law, "Because the people come to me to inquire of God." People come to me to inquire of God. When they have a dispute, they come to me, and I decide between one person and another, and I make known to them the statutes and instructions of God. Moses' father-in-law said to him, what you are doing is not good. So hold on, this is what Moses said that he was doing. This is what the Lord told him to do. When I have a dispute, they come to me and I decide between one person and another, and I make known to them the statutes and instructions of God. Moses' father-in-law said to him, "What you are doing is not good. You will surely wear yourself out, both you and these people with you, for the task is too heavy for you. You cannot do it alone. Now listen to me. I will give you counsel and God be with you. You should represent the people before God, and you should bring their cases before God. Represent the people before God, and you should bring their cases before God. Teach them the statutes and instructions and make known to them the way they are to go and the things they are to do. You should also look for able men among all the people, men who fear God, are trustworthy and hate dishonest gain, and set such men over them as officers, over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. Let them sit as judges for the people at all times. Let them bring every important case to you, but decide every minor case themselves. So it will be easier for you, and they will bear the burden with you. If you do this, and God so commands you, then you will be able to endure, and all these people will go to their home in peace." Oh, shoot. This is not good. Ah, man, I can see it now. This is terrible. Mind your business, Papa. Oh, no. Made me change the color of my highlight to red. So Moses listened to his father-in-law and did all that he said. This is what the problem was. This right here is what the problem was. Moses chose able men from all Israel and appointed them as heads over the people, as officers over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. And they judged the people at all times. Hard cases they brought to Moses, but in minor cases they decided themselves. Then Moses let his father-in-law depart, and off he went. And he went off to his own country. I don't know about this. We'll see what happens. The father-in-law gave him counsel about how to handle the judging part. The Israelites reached Mount Sinai. On the third new moon, after the Israelites had gone out of the land of Egypt, on that very day, they came into the wilderness of Sinai. Wilderness of Sinai. So they left the wilderness of Sin on the third new moon after the Israelites had gone out of the land of Egypt. And on that very day, they came into the wilderness of Sinai, Mount Sinai. They had journeyed from Rephidim, entering the wilderness of Sinai, and camped in the wilderness. Israel camped there in front of the mountain. Okay, they camped in front of the mountain. Then Moses went up to God. The Lord called to him from the mountain, saying, "Thus you shall say to the house of Jacob, and tell the Israelites, you have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now, therefore, if you obey my voice and keep my covenant, you shall be my treasured possession out of all peoples. Indeed, the whole earth is mine, but you shall be for me a priestly kingdom and a holy nation. We are the priestly kingdom and the holy nation. Shall be for me a priestly kingdom and a holy nation. You shall be for me a priestly kingdom and a holy nation. Exodus 19. That's 6. That's so beautiful. These are the words that you shall speak to the Israelites. So Moses came, summoned the elders of the people, and set before them all these words that the Lord had commanded him. The people all answered as one, "Everything that the Lord has spoken, we will do." Moses reported the words of the people to the Lord. Then the Lord said to Moses, "I'm going to come to you in a dense cloud in order that the people may hear when I speak with you, and so trust you ever after." The people consecrated. When Moses had told the words of the people to the Lord said to Moses, "Go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow. Have them wash their clothes." So consecrate the people. "And prepare for the third day, because on the third day the Lord will come down upon Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people. You shall set limits for the people all around. You shall set limits for the people all around, saying, be careful not to go up the mountain or to touch the edge of it. Any who touch the mountain shall be put to death." Oh. Set limits for the people all around, saying, be careful not to go up the mountain or to touch the edge of it. Any who touch the mountain shall be put to death. No hand shall touch them, but they shall be stoned or shot with arrows. Ah. Hello. I am always reporting. Okay. So any who touch the mountain shall be put to death. Right? We got past all this. Moses listened to his father. There is Mount Sinai. People were consecrated. So no hand shall touch them, but they shall be stoned or shot with arrows. Anybody who touched the mountain should be put to death, and no one should put their hands on them. That's how unclean they became. So Moses went down from the mountain to the people. He consecrated the people, and they washed their clothes. And he said to the people, prepare for the third day. Do not go near a woman. Prepare for the third day. Do not go near a woman. On the morning of the third day, there was a thunder and lightning, as well as a thick cloud on the mountain, and a blast of a trumpet so loud that all the people who were in the camp trembled. Wow. I want to know about the consecration, though. There was a thunder and lightning, as well as a thick cloud. Anytime I hear thunder and I see lightning, I just close my eyes and I'm just sitting there thinking how that's the Lord. That's the Lord's voice. That's the Lord. So Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet God. They took their stand at the foot of the mountain. Now Mount Sinai was wrapped in smoke because the Lord had descended upon it in fire. The smoke went up like the smoke of a kiln, while the whole mountain shook violently. Wow. As the blast of the trumpet grew louder and louder, Moses would speak and God would answer him in thunder. God would answer him in thunder. When the Lord descended upon Mount Sinai to the top of the mountain, the Lord summoned Moses to the top of the mountain, and Moses went up. Then the Lord said to Moses, go down and warn the people not to break through to the Lord to look, otherwise many of them will perish. Even the priests who approach the Lord must consecrate themselves, or the Lord will break out against them. The Lord will break out against them. They must consecrate themselves, or the Lord will break out against them. Moses said to the Lord, the people are not permitted to come up to Mount Sinai, for you yourself warned us, saying, set limits around the mountain and keep it holy. Even the priests who approach the Lord must consecrate themselves, or the Lord will break out against them. The Lord said to him, go down and come up, bringing Aaron with you. But do not let either the priests or the people break through to come up to the Lord. Otherwise, he will break out against them. So Moses went down to the people and told them the 10 Commandments. Then God spoke all these words. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol, whether in the form of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth, on the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing children for the iniquity of parents to the third and the fourth generation of those who rejected me. Punishing children for the iniquity of parents to the third and the fourth generation of those who reject me, but showing steadfast love to the 1,000th generation of those who love me and keep my commandments. Showing steadfast love to the 1,000th generation of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not make wrongful use of the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not acquit anyone who misuses his name. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. You shall not do any work, you, your son or your daughter, your male or female slave, your livestock, or the alien resident in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that is in them, but rested the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and consecrated it. Honor your father and your mother, so that your days may be long in the land that your Lord, your God, is giving you. Honor your father and your mother, so that your days may be long in the land that your Lord, your God, is giving you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. Shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or male or female slave, or ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. When all the people witnessed the thunder and lightning, the sound of the trumpet, and the mountain smoking, they were afraid and trembled and stood at a distance. And said to Moses, you speak to us, and we will listen, but do not let God speak to us, or we will die. Moses said to the people, do not be afraid, for God has come only to test you and to put the fear of him upon you so that you do not sin. So that you do not sin. Put the fear upon you so that you do not sin. There's the 10 Commandments. This is Exodus 20. Exodus 20. The 10 Commandments. But I don't think that's all of them. That's not all of them. Okay. Then the people stood at a distance while Moses drew near to the thick darkness where God was. The law concerning the altar. The Lord said to Moses, thus you shall say to the Israelites, you have seen for yourselves that I spoke with you from heaven. You shall not make gods of silver alongside me, nor shall you make for yourselves gods of gold. You need make for me only an altar of earth and sacrifice on it your burnt offerings. You need make for me only an altar of earth and sacrifice on it your burnt offerings and your offerings of well-being, your sheep and your oxen. In every place where I cause my name to be remembered, I will come to you and bless you. But if you make for me an altar of stone, do not build it of hewn stones. For if you use a chisel upon it, you profane it. You shall not go up by steps to my altar, so that your nakedness may not be exposed on it. You shall not go up by steps to my altar, so that your nakedness may not be exposed on it. Don't make his altar out of hewn stones where a chisel has touched it. So it's not shaped stones. They have to be regular rocks. And do not put the altar in a place where you have to go upstairs, so that your nakedness may not be exposed on it. I'm curious about that. Nakedness on the stairs. Is it more like, your when people walk up the stairs, they walk up the stairs in a haughty way? Is it something like that, or keeping it in a high position? I don't know what it is about the stairs, so that your nakedness may not be displayed on it. The law concerning slaves. These are the ordinances that you shall set before them. When you buy a male Hebrew slave, he shall serve 6 years, but in the 7th he shall go out a free person without debt. If he comes in single, he shall go out single. If he comes in married, then his wife shall go out with him. If his master gives him a wife and she bears him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her master's, and he shall go out alone. But if the slave declares, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out a free person, then his master shall bring him before God. He shall be brought to the door or the doorpost, and his master shall pierce his ear with an awl, and he shall serve him for life. But that's voluntary, like this person wanted to stay, and he had a wife and children there. When a man sells his daughter as a slave, she shall not go out as the male slaves do. If she does not please her master, she shall not go out as the male slaves do. So they're going out in a different place and time, I guess. If she does not please her master, who designated her for himself, then he shall let her be redeemed. He shall have no right to sell her to a foreign people, since he had dealt unfairly with her. If he designates her for his son, he shall deal with her as with a daughter. If he takes another wife to himself, he shall not diminish the food, clothing, or marital rights of the first wife. If he takes another wife to himself, he shall not diminish the food, clothing, or marital rights of the first wife. And if he does not do these three things for her, she shall go out without debt, without payment of money. The law concerning violence. Whoever strikes a person mortally shall be put to death. If it was not premeditated, but came about by an act of God, then I will appoint for you a place to which the killer may flee. But if someone willfully attacks and kills another by treachery, you shall take the killer from my altar. You shall take the killer from my altar for execution. Whoever strikes father or mother shall be put to death. Whoever kidnaps a person, whether that person has been sold or is still held in possession, shall be put to death. Whoever curses father or mother shall be put to death. Whoever curses father or mother shall be put to death. When individuals quarrel and one strikes the other with a stone or fist so that the injured party, though not dead, is confined to bed, but recovers and walks around outside with the help of a staff, then the assailant shall be free of liability, except to pay for the loss of time and to arrange for full recovery. When a slave owner strikes a male or female slave with a rod and the slave dies immediately, the owner shall be punished. But if the slave survives a day or two, there is no punishment, for the slave is the owner's property. When the people who are fighting what is it? Huh? Huh? Can you just tell me what it is? You couldn't seem like you could have just. Okay. But if the slave survives a day or two, there is no punishment, for the slave is the owner's property. When the people who are fighting injure a pregnant woman so that there is a miscarriage and yet no further harm follows, the one responsible shall be fined what the woman's husband demands, paying as much as the judges determine. If any harm follows, then you shall give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. When a slave owner strikes the eye of a male or female slave, destroying it, the owner shall let the slave go, a free person, to compensate for the eye. If the owner knocks out a tooth of a male or female slave, the slave shall be let go, a free person, to compensate for the tooth. Ooh, interesting. Laws concerning property. When an ox gores a man or a woman to death, the ox shall be stoned, and its flesh shall not be eaten, but the owner of the ox shall not be liable. If the ox has been accustomed to gore in the past, and its owner has been warned but has not restrained it, and it kills a man or a woman, the ox shall be stoned, and its owner also shall be put to death. If a ransom is imposed on the owner, then the owner shall pay whatever is imposed for the redemption of the victim's life. If it gores a boy or a girl, the owner shall be dealt with according to this same rule. If the ox gores a male or female slave, the owner shall pay to the slave owner 30 shekels of silver, and the ox shall be stoned. If someone leaves a pit open or digs a pit and does not cover it, and an ox or a donkey falls into it, the owner of the pit shall make restitution, giving money to its owner, but keeping the dead animal. Keep the dead animal. If someone's ox hurts the ox of another so that it dies, then they shall sell the live ox and divide the price of it. And the dead animal they shall also divide. But if it was known that the ox was accustomed to gore in the past, and its owner has not restrained it, the owner shall restore ox for ox, but keep the dead animal. And that's it for Exodus. I ended at 22. I read 21 and I was intending just to read 20. But we're going to start at Exodus 22 and then go from there. Okay. See ya in a minute. Bye.